join. Don't get me wrong, it will not spoil. You can still join to make it full. If in case you miscalculate and it ends up like that, you can still join. There's nothing bad. But make sure when joining, you join up to this extent, and your fullness should be up to this, so that when you are trimming, when you want to cut out, you'll be able to cut out. Because when joining, make sure you are joining with both parts, because you are working with two pieces. So here is times 2. Here is times 2. For this my front, it is times 2, and for my side it's another times 2, making it times 4. Remember, this times 2 is for the front, another times 2 for the back. This times 2 for the back is the one that, because this is unfold and it has 2 pieces, we're going to place it on this other unfold, which is the back part, and you're going to cut exactly the same shape as I have for this. There is no big deal about this. You are going to cut it exactly the same shape. So let me go ahead to show you the fabric which I've already cut out, but it is not the same measurement. That is smaller, so I make use of 3 yards of fabric to cut it out. So let me bring that and show you what I have there. So here is my fabric which I want to work with. Here is my fabric which I want to work with, and here is my side. Here is my center back. As I told you, my center back is 2 pieces because I place it on full. I showed you earlier. Let me bring out my center back for you to see. My center back is times 2. This is my center back, not the same measurement with this one, but my center back is times 2. My center back is times 2. My center back is times 2, so that is what I have here. And you can see my tail. So here is my center back. And there's one thing about your center back, what you are going to do. So this is our center back. When you have this your markings here, because of the shape that comes in both sides, you might be confused on where to place for your front. Sometimes you might have it to be something like equal shape as this upper part, and you might be confused. So what you need to do before anything, after cutting out your center back, and you can indicate that your shocks are showing, what you need to do is to notch it at this up, just like this. Just notch it like this to indicate that this is for your zipper allowance. This space is for your zipper. So you can see I have something like that on my fabric. So when I want to sew, I know whenever I come across it like this, when sewing, I know that this is for my zipper allowance. I'm not going to sew it with my side back, sorry. So there is my center back, and here is my side. Let me bring out my side back, and here is my side back. So you can see my side back. This side that has this shape will tell you that this is for your hip because it has shape, and this side that does not have that shape, you can see my sewing allowance is there already. So you are going to place one side for your center back, just like this. So this is how our flay is going to look like. Remember, this is also unfold, and it is 2 pieces. As I told you, it is 2 pieces. So you can see how the flay looks like. Let me bring it closer. So this is for the back. So just imagine after sewing everything how the flay will be full. So this is for the back, and for the front, here is my center front. Here's my center front, and here these ones are my side front. So these are my side front. So make sure when working with your fabric, make sure you always put mark, like use your shock to create mark for you to know that you are working with both wrong and right side of fabric. So where is this my shock? So this is an indication that this is the wrong side of fabric. Wrong side of fabric. Because when sewing, you cross-check your name and place it at the wrong side of your fabric when cutting. So after cutting, make sure you indicate that it is your wrong part, because if you don't do that, you might mistakenly sew the right part to the wrong part. There are some cases that these names might not show, and if these names are showing, it will be easier for you to indicate that it is your wrong side, because the names are not properly placed. So what I'm going to do now is, for if you want to cut out your lining, you can go ahead to cut it full lining. It all depends on what you are working with. If you want your lining to be full, you can go ahead to cut it full lining, and you can still follow the process of how I sew my blouse, how I sew my full blouse. You can follow that process in sewing your skirt. After sewing your lining, sewing your fabric, you go ahead to trim your lining by 1 inch lesser than your fabric. But by then, let me just go straight to the point. So that aside, but if you still want the fabric to be short, you can still go ahead to make it short. Like for this now, the fabric which I bought is not enough, so I'm going to manage it, because I could not find a better fabric than what I saw, so I was able to just buy it because I like the cotton. So yours might not be the same, you might decide to use something else. It all depends on you, but what you really need to know is that you are going to use lining for your work, and you try best not to make it that small or sewing it just like that. So let me go ahead to cut out my lining to my fabric, and I'm going to show you what I did after that. So here is my fabric for the back, and you can see the lining which I have cut out. So the length of my fabric is the length of my lining is 26 inches. You can make it longer than this if you have enough fabric, but if you don't have, if you are the type that is also managing like the way I'm doing like this right now, you can still make it, but it should not be shorter than this. It won't look nice. It should be at least below the nail, so it makes the inside to be, that kind of thing. So this is exactly what I did for the front, the same way I did for the back. And this is the cutting tutorial. I don't know if I'm going to show you on how to cut the skirts, because things are tight. Nobody to hold my camera for me for now. I don't really know. I hope somebody comes along. So just stay tuned in case I show you something else. Okay, so let's continue from our sewing from where we stopped. So this is the sewing section now. So what we are going to do, this is our center front. So what we are going to do for our skirt now, this is let me keep my lining aside to show you what to do. So this is the right side of your fabric. Take note, this is the right side of your fabric. You can see my shock that was drawn on the center front, the wrong part. So after having it like this, I'm going to open my side, and you can see I'm going to face my right side, facing right side. This is my wrong side, which I marked bad because it's the wrong side. So my right side is going to face the right side of my center front, and this other one as well is going to face the right side. You can see not the hip shape, but this other curve, this other area, it is going to be like this. So it is going to be like this. I'm going to sew from top down to bottom. I'm going to sew from this top down to bottom, and I'm going to do the same thing for my lining. My lining as well, I'm going to do the same thing. You can see the shape is out, so you can see my curvy part. So you can see I'm going to join the same way I showed you on how to join your center front for the main fabric. That is the same way I'm going to join for my lining, like this, from up down to bottom. So keep my front aside and come over to the back. So my back, I'm going to keep my lining and demonstrate to you on how to do your main fabric. So take note, this is our center front, and this is our center front. So this is the wrong part of our fabric, so I'm going to open it just like this. And as you can see, this is the part which I notched. This is the part which I notched. You can see notched like this. So this is our zipper allowance, and this is for our side, where the side is going to join. So this is my side, and this is my hip curve, my hip area. So this is the right side of my fabric, and this is also the right side of my fabric. So what I have here is the right side of the fabric for both the center back and the side back. So what I'm going to do now is to join each of this, because this is split in two. I'm going to join this for this, just like this, keeping this notched area for the zipper allowance. I'm going to sew from top down to bottom, and as well for this other part I'm going to sew from top down to bottom for the back. Then over to our lining, I'm going to place it the same way I placed my main fabric. So you can see this is the notched part which I have at the center here. So this indicating that this is my zipper allowance. So it is going to be like this, because I'm going to sew from top to bottom, and this is the side for my back and this is the side for my back. So I'll go ahead and sew it, then come back to show you. After sewing, I will iron it and come back to show you how it looks. So let me go ahead to do that. Okay, so I have gone ahead to sew and iron it. So these are my side, these are my back, and this is my front. So you can see how I was able to sew it and iron it. You can see how it is looking very neat and nice. So it just should be like this. Make sure you always work with iron. And I went on to do the same for my lining. So here is for my back, and I have my one piece on my front. So all I'm going to do for my front is to place it like this, right side facing right side for my front. I'm going to place it like this, and I'm going to sew it down from sideways. I'm going to join it from the side down to where it stops. This is where I'm going to sew it. And for my back, these are my two back, and I went on to iron it as well. So you can see my notch which I showed you. So this place, this part here is for my zipper allowance, so I did not sew it. So take note of this notch. Make sure you do yours like that too, for your work to be easier for you to understand on how to go about it. So you are going to place it the same way I place my front. I'm going to place my back just like this, and I'm going to sew the same 0.5 down, and the same thing for the side. I'm going to sew it down, and I'm going to do the same thing which I did for the other side of my back. I'm going to apply the same method on this other part as well. I'm going to place it like this and sew 0.5 inch down. So let me go ahead to join them and come back to show you. Okay, after joining, I will still iron. I want it to be quick for you to understand. After joining, I will still iron, then show you what I did. I have gone ahead to sew it and turn it inside out. So this is my right side. I have gone ahead to sew it and turn it inside out, and I went on to stitch the upper part. So after turning it inside out, I went on to stitch this upper part. You can see this part as well. I went on to stitch this one as well, and this other side for the back I stitched it. So after doing that, what I'm going to do next now is to mark out my zipper allowance. So as you may know, this is for my center back and this is my side back. I will place it like this. So after folding it like this, what I'm going to do is, I told you to place my center front, my front on my back. So I'm going to place it just like this, and as you may know, how I normally do mine is to mark out my zipper allowance, then sew it before taking my measurement. So you can see after placing your front on your back just like this, you will see the space that you have for your zipper allowance. So that is the aim. So this is the space that I have for my zipper allowance, and what I'm going to do now is to mark out my space for my zipper allowance after placing it on fold like this. So you can see what I have here. Mark it down to this spot and take it down like this. So this is the center from, making sure it is sitting at the side that it's supposed to sit. So from this your nail part, because this area now is the nail part, from this your nail part, you can take it, slant it down like this. So this part does not go the same way, the same space or shape which we are going to take out from here. So from this your nail part, you are going to slant it a little and sew it very small. So then we are going to sew it very small down to this part, because this part we have our 7 inches for our tail, and this part that will play out for the back. So you are going to sew it very little like this. And so what I'm going to do now is that I'm going to take it to my sewing machine, and I'm going to sew from this part all the way down to that other, to the end. And I'm going to turn it and iron it. After doing that, I'll come back to show you what I have. I am really sorry for the noise in the background. This is beyond my control. I am sorry. I'm really sorry. I apologize for the background noise. Please, I'm sorry. So this is my back as I have sewn it, and I went on to iron it. So what I'm going to do next, I just want to round this up. The noise in the background is too much. So what I'm going to do now is to place my front on my back just like this. After ironing my zipper around, I'm going to place my front on my back just like this, and I'm going to pin it down. So let me bring my pin and show you what to do. Okay, so now I want to take the measurement of what I am making now. So what I'm going to do is to divide my waist divided by 2. So this is my waist divided by 2, and this is my waist measurement here. So what I have between this and this, you should know this. I'm going to apply here and apply it here. So what I have between here and here divided by 2, apply one part here and apply the other part at the other side. That is what I did there. And down to my hip, I take your hip measurements 9 to get your hip measurements, then your nail. So after getting it like that, I come over to my hip and I get my hip measurement, my hip divided by 2. That is what I'm going to place here. My hip divided by 2, that is what I'm going to place here. And what I have between here and this other part, that is the same thing I'm going to place at this other side. So I calculate what I have here to here. Place one part here and place it at this other part as well. So to get your nail measurement, after getting my measurement for my hip like this, I'm going to minus 3 inches. So 1, 2, 3, 16. So I'm going to place 16 at my nail. I'm going to place 16 at my nail. So since it is divided into 2, remember when I divided it into 4, I was able to minus 1.5. So since it is now into 2, all I'm going to minus is 3. When it was unfolded into 4, it was divided, I reduced it by 1.5. Since it is now open, what I did is to take 3 inches. Hope you understand. So I took away 3 inches from my hip to get my nail. That is simple as that. I take away 3 inches to get my nail. Take away 3 inches from my hip to get my nail. Then I connect from my waist to my hip. Connect from my hip to my nail. Connect from my waist to my hip. From my hip to my nail. Then from this my nail part, I'm going to connect it down to this end, just like this. So from this part, I'm going to reduce the width. I'm going to reduce the width from this part down to the end, just like this. And I'm going to do the same for this other part. I'm going to reduce the width and take it down to the end. Reduce the width and take it down to the end to this part. So this is it. So let me go ahead to sew it from both sides down and come back to show you what to do next. I have gone ahead to iron the side of my skirt, and I went on to iron this other side as well. So what I'm going to do is to turn it inside out. So I just want to quickly rush this and finish this one because the way I'm working is very noisy. So let me go ahead quickly rush it off. You need to iron your side after turning it inside out. You need to iron. But let me go ahead to fold my back and show you on how I was able to do it. So let me quickly do that. what I have here, my waist is 30 and what I have here is 35 because of the sewing allowance for your zip. So what I have here is 35 and my waist is 30. So what I'm going to do next, I place my paper gum steady strong one on it. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to iron 0.5, press 0.5 from this part down to the end there. Then I'm going to bend this up to 1.5 inch. So the width of my band is going to be 1.5 inch. So after bending it to 1.5 inch, I'm going to take it all the way down. Then I'm going to reduce this one under it. I'm going to reduce it by 0.1 inch lower than the main 1.5. So it is going to be 0.5 inch lower than this main band. So you can see what I have here. So that is what I'm going to do all through. So let me go ahead to do that and come back to show you how it looks. So I have gone ahead to fold it as I just showed you. So I don't know if I was able to let him to tell you that the width of this is 4 inches. So my width of this is 4 inches and the length is the width is long. It is longer than the waist. Then this, you see the, okay, so this is 4 inches as I have here. This is 4 inches as I have here for we not to get confused or lost. So you can see what I did. This was 0.5 inch I fold in and I bent. What I have here is 1.5 and I turn it over, and what I have at this other part is not up to 1.5. It is lesser by 0.1 inch. So it is lesser by 0.1 inch. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to tear off my back, my zipper allowance. I'm going to open it just like this, and the length of the depth of your zip where it should end should just be more than 10 inches, 10 and 9. That is the length which it is going to be. So what I'm going to do next is to sew on this my lesser part. This is the lesser part. This is the main band and this is the lesser part. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to place it like this. This lesser part, I'm going to place it on the wrong side of my fabric. The wrong side of my fabric, I'm going to sew it, keeping a space of at least 1 inch. And I'm going to sew it from this part down to the other end. So let me go ahead to sew it, then come back to show you on what to do next. Okay, so I have sewn it down to this other end. So you can see how it looks. So when I turn to sew, this will sit on the fabric and close it up. So before that, what I'm going to do now is for you to take your measurement from this, your first dart. From your first dart here to this other dart. This is our side, and this is the first dart, and this is the other dart at the front. This is the back dart, and this is the front dart. So what you are going to do to get your elastic, you are going to take your measurement from this dart to this other dart and reduce it by 2 to 3 inches. So you are going to reduce it by 2 to 3 inches to get your elastic band. So what I did for this is to reduce it by 2 inches to get my elastic band. So you can reduce it by 2 to 3 inches to get your elastic band. So what I'm going to do with my elastic band for both sides, I'm going to sew at this other part of my dart. I'm going to stitch it at this other part of my dart. I am going to stitch it, and I'm going to draw my elastic. By then this will fold up to this side. I'm going to stitch it as well as this on this other side. Stitch it. After stitching it down on both parts, what I'm going to do, I'm going to bend this like this. I'm going to bend it to sit at the line which I ironed like this. At the line which I ironed like that, and I'm going to sew it close and bend this as well and sew it close. So after sewing it close, I'm going to turn it inside out. I'm going to turn it like this, and I'm going to stitch on my elastic from this other dart to this other dart. I'm going to run one line. You can as well go ahead to run 2 lines, but I do run only 1 line. So after sewing that line, then I'm going to close my band. Then I'm going to close my band after doing that. So let me go ahead to do it. I just want to rush everything up to be quick for you. I want you to see what I did before closing it, so you don't get confused. So you can see me stitching my elastic band, so you can see how it looks from the other end of my that to the other end, so you can see what I have here. So you can see how it looks. So I have gone ahead to close this side as well and this other part as well. So what I'm going to do, you can see this side. What I'm going to do now is to run my stitch at this down part to close my band. I'm going to run my stitch down to the other end. Let me go ahead to do that and show you what it looks like. So after doing that, I'm still going to stitch on my elastic band, as I told you earlier. I'm still going to stitch on my elastic band. On my fabric, I'm going to stitch from this end to this end on the fabric. So let me go and do that. Okay, so I have fixed my band, as you can see. So what is left to do now is to sew your zip and to fold the hemming parts of your skirt. So if there is anyone that is out, just go ahead to trim it and trim this part and fold it. It is late already. I don't know if I'll be able to show you the finished result of it. I'll put it on the mannequin. I don't know. Let me see what I can do about that. So just I'm really grateful for you guys for staying with me to learn till this extent. I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you. I want to say thank you for coming. Thank you for staying tuned. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if in case you find it helpful. And don't forget to share it with your friends. Thank you very much. Stay safe and always remain blessed.